Today, on Callout, Nelson Search and Rescue rookies show their stuff while helping an injured hiker.
I heard a snap, and I thought to myself, that doesn't sound good.
And later, an RCMP forensics team hunts for evidence and documents a scene where a missing hunter's body is being found.
Doesn't matter where the physical evidence takes us, we just follow it. And as we follow it, it allows us to present all the facts in court and ultimately reach the truth.
Monday, 9:30 a.m. Nelson Search and Rescue is called out to assist an injured hiker near the outskirts of town.
Just been called out, a 17-year-old subject, possible broken ankle up on a popular hiking trail, quite similar to the Grouse Grind in Vancouver. It's called Pulpit Rock in Nelson. See if we can locate the subject and see about getting them out to BC Ambulance.
We arrive on scene. Classic ground search and rescue call out. Someone's out on a trail, slipped, hurt themselves. They need help getting out. No place to land a helicopter. It's quite a ways in. You gotta hike all the equipment in, package them, and muscle them out.
As with many call-outs, the mission specifics have evolved.
The interesting thing about this call, the information we had, 17-year-old female, 50 meters up the trail, turns out to be a 71-year-old male, 500 meters plus up the trail. Someone gets a cell phone, makes a 911 call. That information passes through several people before it gets to us, the members arriving on scene. That initial information is never the same. It's hard to prepare for these things because you never know what you're going to get when you really get there, so you got to bring it all.
The injured hiker is Ron Fearing from Courtenay, British Columbia on Vancouver Island. Ron is an avid sportsman, an outdoor enthusiast with extensive hiking experience, including a trek to the base camp at Mount Everest in Nepal.
I'm bouncing down the trail here, and I'm feeling really good, because I've been up here before on Friday, and I don't know what happened. I just, left leg went out from underneath me, and I heard a snap. And I thought to myself, that doesn't sound good.
A bit of an adrenaline rush. I'd been up Pulpit's Peak for an hour and a half up, and we were probably, 20, 30 minutes down, and I'm just trucking right along, probably at a half a jog. And I just stepped on a root about the size of a big snake, and my left foot went out from underneath me. I heard a snap, and I looked down at my foot, and that's not right. It was at 45 degrees to my leg, so I knew I was in trouble at that point.
The great thing about a call like this is it's not super technical. It takes lots of manpower. It's where our whole membership can get involved, the experienced to the least experienced. Situations like this, they're an extension of training. Junior members can go hands-on, under pressure, yet still in a safe and controlled manner. They get to use all those ground search and rescue skills they've learned. Do the packaging, set things up, get that subject out.
I just settled myself down and calmed myself to the point where I wasn't going to become agitated. I was in a painful situation, and to see that many people arrive, enthusiastic, attentive, alert, and ready to take action right away was just remarkable. It almost brought tears to my eyes. I thought, oh man, these guys are going such an extra mile to get me off this mountain in the condition that I was in. I was quite happy and excited about it.
A helicopter arrives to assist the team.
It's unfortunate we don't have a belly band for a helicopter right now, so long line's out of the question. So very, very steep terrain, lots of trees. Not really good to do a hot load of any kind with a stretcher, so do the old-fashioned way, gotta hike them out.
Although lifting the subject out by long line is not an option, the team has the helicopter fly in equipment and medical supplies using a cargo sling. One of Nelson's Search and Rescue's newest members in training is Sheila Sweatman. Originally from Winnipeg, she's now a freelance artist and full-time resident of Nelson.
This was my first real rescue, and it was important to me because it really allowed me to get my hands into what was happening right close to the subject. Getting to him what he needs, O2 tanks or more clothing or a pillow, or getting him secured and stable into the stretcher. In our ground search and rescue, we have a rope management portion where we have to learn how to tie a certain number of knots and know how to attach belay systems to each other. And it gave me a really good opportunity to see it and to be part of the team as those techniques were being used.
The wheel must take all the weight. You don't want to be lifting up on the stretcher on the sides, because if you're lifting on this side, you're pushing down on the other side.
Like most Canadian search and rescue organizations, volunteer members meet regularly for training sessions, learning new techniques and practicing the life-saving skills required for a wide array of potential emergencies.
Training is a big part of search and rescue. Most of the training we take has a shelf life of about 6 months. You have to keep doing it year after year after year. A lot of new things come up too, new techniques, new equipment, new people that you need to work with. You know, everyone needs to know everybody's strengths and weaknesses. They have to be comfortable. You have to become a team. You got to train all the time. It's the most important thing to make a healthy team. Start feeding that rope in there. You guys want to push downhill?
Nelson draws in a lot of people that are really into extreme sports, mountain climbing and backcountry skiing and snowboarding and whitewater. So just the fact that those people tend to draw to this area creates the basis for a really strong search and rescue team.
It's not just about technology, methodology. It's about bonding as a team. If you're going to go out and do a rescue call and put your life in someone else's hand, you're not going to do that not knowing their name, not practicing with them, not doing those same rescue techniques together and knowing they're not going to let go of the rope.
There's a few spots on that trail in particular that we had to lift and get down on rocks, and the trail's tight and there's 5 or 6 of you around the stretcher trying to stabilize it and make sure it doesn't skid away. So you have to be conscious of what's coming up and what you're going over and communicate with the people that you're working with.
It doesn't look simple at all, and I'm not so sure it's simple for them, but it sure looks scary to me. And one false step by any one of those members, and you know, I'm jarred and in a very vulnerable condition. And they did it masterfully. It was like I'm floating on air going down there.
When we're carrying out the subject on the stretcher, you have to be very conscious that he does have a broken leg, and to what extent we don't know. So you always have to assume that it might be worse than it is and constantly monitor your subject. And he was really conscious and able to respond. Sometimes that may not be the case. So you have to be thinking for your subject.
You guys are doing great.
Yeah, how are
You
you?
guys are doing great. Thank you.
How are
Thank
you doing,
guys.
Ron?
I'm doing good. Thanks, everyone.
We got an easy job. Okay, rock up.
So our subject's just coming down to the first access road. We're going to load him into the back of a pickup truck to take him down the last little bit here. BC ambulance is waiting just down on the pavement. Should be a pretty quick transfer.
With the most challenging portion of the ordeal now behind him, a relieved and very grateful Ron Fearing jokes with his rescuers.
Well, guys, I can probably make it from I can probably make it from
No, you know what? We want to get paid all the way to the bottom.
That's right.
Well, search and rescue to me was a thing that I'd never ever thought of. It was just one of those things that I was going too fast, probably, and the thought of that happening just never entered my mind until suddenly I'm down. They did a remarkable job, and I just have to give my thanks, very hearty thanks to those team members, and thank you for volunteering.
The part that's exciting to me when I get a call out is not knowing what I'm going to be doing that day. I could be getting into a boat and jumping into a dry suit and rescuing somebody that way, or it could be climbing into a helicopter and going over mountaintops, and it's the adventure part that's exciting to me, and the task itself exciting to know that somebody needs you and that you're there to help, and with the training that we get to be the professional that is there to assist, and that part's exciting.
Team 1 departing at 11:02, and the helicopter.
No SAR mission or training exercise is fully complete without the team regrouping for a debriefing session, where an open discussion helps to perfect their search and rescue skills and techniques for future callouts.
Probability detection, term that we've thrown around a lot.
I'm intrigued by the training. I'd really like to get involved with the avalanche side of things, get my avalanche 1 and 2 hopefully at some point. I've always had a dream to have a rescue dog, but I don't know if that'll develop. Overall, just basically to enhance my skills in every way.
Team's ready to advance. Everybody ready? Ready. Okay, let's go.
This was a very successful call. The subject was packaged and removed in a timely fashion, safe and sound to the hospital. Our members in training, like Sheila, out there using the training that they've learned, gaining experience, empowered by helping someone. It's a win-win for everyone.
Now, a missing hunter's body is found, and the search for evidence begins.
We don't go to all death scenes. We're called to ones that there's question marks around why this person has suddenly become deceased, and then my unit would be called in to record this as a crime scene.
Sunday morning, 11 a.m. Search and rescue teams from Wadena and Saskatoon SAR are called out to search for a lost hunter. This is a recreation. John Doe was reported missing the day before by his hunting partner, who told the police they became separated in the woods and he hasn't seen him since. The search teams have been working the last known location and surrounding area for nearly 4 hours now. Something is spotted in a clearing. The team leader carefully approaches the scene. The subject is not moving. He checks for a pulse. Nothing.
Team leader to base.
The subject matches the description of the missing hunter and does not appear to be alive.
We found extreme evidence.
The team leader radios in a report. Code black.
Request RCMP, over.
Roger that. We'll contact RCMP.
Carefully, he moves back, trying to walk out in his previous footsteps in an effort not to disturb the scene. The SAR team will stand by until the police arrive.
So you're the team leader of the search and rescue?
While the investigator takes the statement from the SAR members, forensic identification services are already on the way. FIS is the CSI of Canada. We follow RCMP Sergeant Kevin Shearer and Constable Tambra Ferguson as they reveal key methods and tools used in a forensic investigation.
We don't go to all death scenes. We're called to ones that there's question marks around why this person has suddenly become deceased, and then my unit would be called in to record this as a crime scene. We investigate the death as a homicide until proven otherwise.
The FIS team is now on site and has a few questions for the SAR team as well.
On the right-hand side.
Might that be their cigarette butt that's in the vicinity? Are these their tire tracks? How did the search transpire? Where did they walk? From which direction did you approach this scene? Oftentimes, if I've had the opportunity to view the footwear worn by the searchers, I can readily eliminate certain footwear impressions.
The forensic team works their way into where the hunter's body lay, carefully walking the access trail and looking for evidence.
Okay, we got a footwear impression here. Quite a bit of detail in it.
They spot a distinct footprint that does not appear to match any of the SAR team members. It's noted for further documentation. Detailed photographs will be taken. Sometimes, the footprint is cast as well.
If we have actual three-dimensional cast to compare to the shoe, we may be able to pick up accidental characteristics that our photographs, a two-dimensional medium, would not actually give to us.
The team picks their way through the brush.
I look at the area around me in a grid, and I make a mental note of what's in that grid, and then I come back to it and I harvest it later. Physical evidence is very fragile. It's not always visible. We try to keep the crime scene as pristine as possible, and we want nothing disturbed because we don't want to contaminate any evidence or destroy any evidence.
Having established a safe path around the evidence, the team begins to document the scene, shooting video first and then moving on to still photography.
The idea is to give the courtroom viewer a very good understanding of how that scene is laid out. We use photographic linkage, so it's easy to walk the courtroom viewer through the scene, and they're able to maintain their orientation in the scene. There's a shell casing over there somewhere.
The coroner arrives.
A coroner must attend to order an autopsy. A suspicious death requires an autopsy. In some cases, we really don't know or have any idea what the cause of death might have been prior to the autopsy. You know, when the body was at the scene because of clothing or whatnot, we may not have been aware that this was a shooting death. And it's the autopsy that tells us what we should be looking for back at the scene.
The body is removed. With video and photography of the scene complete, the team now marks each piece of evidence with crime scene placards. They will photograph each item and how it relates to the scene.
We don't know what evidence is relevant or what is or is not evidence. Therefore, we err on the side of caution and we take anything that presents a question mark to us. Many times there is an assigned exhibit custodian that's able to track the evidence from the scene right through to the courtroom to maintain its integrity.
What story will these cartridges tell?
Expended cartridges can be very significant evidence, something that we are always mindful of when we're searching a crime scene.
They test to ensure that it's blood on the scene, then gather samples from key areas.
We have bloodstain analysts that we can call into a crime scene to analyze the bloodstain patterns. Blood is evidence in itself for the sake of DNA.
With all visible physical evidence documented and gathered, the team tapes off the scene. They sweep the area with a metal detector.
The evidence that we're looking for can be very small and not easy to detect, and we use whatever tools we have available to try and find it, or be satisfied that there isn't any.
One tool, the forensic light source, or FLS, is a black light that spots evidence you cannot see in daylight.
We use it for photographing trace evidence that we otherwise can't see. We use it for fingerprints, for searching for hair and fibers. We may use it for looking for semen at a sexual assault scene.
The evidence is taken away for analysis.
It may come to my office for analysis for fingerprints, for footwear impressions, tire impressions, physical matching.
DNA, hair, fiber, and other more complex analysis is done at a forensic lab. The forensic team's role continues in court.
Our job is to give the court a clear understanding of the layout of the crime scene, and subsequent witnesses that take the stand are then able to refer to the photographs that we've taken to explain their involvement in this crime scene. We give opinion evidence such as fingerprint individualizations, footwear individualizations, physical matching.
In this case, the crime scene evidence supports the prosecution's theory of what occurred that day. The two hunters had been drinking. They'd fired off 2 shots while sitting there. A gun was left cocked with a shell in the chamber. The men started to argue, and a struggle ensued. The rifle was grabbed. It went off during the struggle. John Doe was mortally wounded. His hunting partner panicked and ran away. The expended shell, still in the chamber when the police examined his gun, matched those found at the scene. The bullet found at the scene matched the rifle as well. The hunter confesses and is charged with manslaughter.
One of our primary roles as forensic identification specialists is to get to the truth. And if the truth exonerates a person, we're just as pleased to harvest that evidence and bring it to the courtroom as in a case where the truth points guilt at a person. For us, we are very neutral. It really doesn't matter where the physical evidence takes us, we just follow it. And as we follow it, it allows us to present all the facts in court and ultimately reach the truth.
Callout Search and Rescue features real stories filmed live by search and rescue teams during actual missions. Find out more at calloutstar.tv.